Hello students of the Virginia Beach Environmental Studies program. I am so happy that I get to talk to you guys today. My name is Kiara Scott. I am 20 years old. I am a current junior at Virginia Tech, majoring in sustainable biomaterials, the science track, and minoring in chemistry. And I am a former student of Mr. Freeman's. I took his AP Environmental class my senior year of high school. Ignore my list, I had Invisalign. And so what is that, 2017 and 2018? And it was the most fun. And honestly, that class is the reason why I am where I am today, which sounds like a little corny, but it's so true. I would love to talk to you guys about my experience in Virginia Tech and my experience with Mr. Freeman and my career goals, what Virginia Tech is like, and if you guys don't mind, maybe a little lesson, maybe? We'll see how it goes. Back when I was in Mr. Freeman's class, we did a bunch of super cool projects. One of them was a dendrochronology project, which I'm sure you guys are going to learn so much about. And so what we did in that is we went out behind Kellam, I'm from Kellam, and we went to this little forested area, and all the little groups got to pick a tree, and then we got to bore into the tree and take out a core sample, and then we studied the tree rings. And then the really cool application part was we took an outside element and saw how that affected the tree growth, the tree rings. And so what my group specifically did was we looked at how the population growth in Virginia Beach affected how the trees in the area grew. And we found that as the population spiked in certain areas, we calculated like the years going back on the tree, and it was less growth. And then the years that didn't have that much growth, or there was less population, the tree got to grow more. And so that's just one example of the really cool applications that you can do to where you can see how the world around us affects the natural world. Well, environmental science is like where it's at. You're not sitting in a classroom, staring at a textbook, trying to memorize these things. All these concepts and ideas that you guys are working with are just out in the world around you. It's beyond what people have made, you know, it's beyond our buildings and all this. And with the Brock Center, yes, with the Brock Center that you guys are going to be working at, you guys are like right out on the water, you guys have all this access, and yes, I know virtual school right now is kind of going to be a little bit of a bummer in that, but once you guys are out there, be curious and go explore the world. Like, this is the coolest field to be in, especially nowadays. We as environmental scientists, we have like a really big task at hand. We have a whole planet to save. You know, this environment, all the ecosystems, everything in the world right now needs people like us who care about it, who want to know more, and who want to fix it. We have this super huge task at hand of saving this whole planet so that our generation, our kids, their kids, and all the future generations after us will get to enjoy life in the same way that we do. And it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of effort. And you guys are laying down this huge stepping stone for all the students after you. And I am so proud. I wish I could like meet you guys maybe one day, but I'm super proud of you guys about that. Sorry about that rant. Let me go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about Virginia Tech. So I actually spent my first year of college at Tidewater Community College, and then I transferred to Virginia Tech. So at TCC, I was taking an introductory engineering course, like 1 credit, super easy, just to like get your mind thinking about what you want to do after you get out of TCC. And from that, I was researching Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech is a really good engineering school. And so I was looking at all the different engineering programs, and then I saw that they had the College of Natural Resources and Environment. So I was like, okay, that sounds like pretty cool. Let me check that out. Granted, it's not engineering, but it's still more on the field of like what I want to do. And then through that, that's how I found sustainable biomaterials. I read up on that, and I was like, whoa, that's exactly what I want to do. I ended up figuring out what I wanted to do, and I researched what credits I needed to get in, and I was just trying to transfer in my sophomore year. And it worked out perfectly. I got in, I got accepted into like the honors college, I got an apartment, everything just like worked out perfectly. So the career goal that I ended up having, I want to start creating biodegradable alternatives to plastics and styrofoams and anything that when thrown away into a landfill will stay there for thousands of years, essentially. Or if it ends up on the side of a highway, it can biodegrade. If it ends up in the ocean, it can turn into like fish food, you know? So like, for example, things like pens or diapers or cling wrap, sandwich bags, toothbrushes, food stuff, office stuff, all these things, wrapping and packaging, all these things that are made of plastic, you know? It's everywhere. It is literally everywhere. And that's the scary part, because we produce so much, we use so much, we have to throw away so much. And where does all of that go? I just wanted to get into something that I know would make a difference. And so upon finding sustainable biomaterials, I was like, that is it. That's what I want to do. So Mr. Freeman told me that a bunch of you guys are into like environmental conservation or green engineering or wildlife conservation. And so, not to plug Virginia Tech or anything, but I wanted to tell you guys about some of the different majors that they have here. So in the College of Natural Resources and Environment specifically, we have things like environmental conservation and society, environmental resources management, fish conservation, forestry, geography, meteorology, packaging systems and design, which is really cool, sustainable biomaterials, water, no, it's water resource policy and management. One of my friends is in that major, and wildlife conservation. And that's just in CNRE. For engineering, we have a whole bunch more, and a bunch that are applicable to what you guys are probably interested in. So there's like aerospace, biological systems engineering, biomedical, chemical, computer, construction engineering and management, electrical engineering, industrial and systems engineering, material science, mechanical engineering, mining engineering, and ocean engineering. Another really cool thing about tech and college in general is all the different learning opportunities you have. So, like for me personally, I haven't started yet, but I plan on doing either undergraduate research where I'm gonna work with the professor and try to hone in on like one specific research topic, or an independent study where I go off and spend my own time focusing on something that interests me and doing all like, it's kind of like self-motivated classwork. So besides those, there's also just the classes in general that we take. One of the classes that I had, it was called Structures and Properties of Sustainable Biomaterials, where literally we just looked at the cellular structure of wood and like bamboo, and all the physical properties and mechanical properties of wood, whether it be like in lumber specifically or the tree itself. It was so interesting. That class also had a lab in which every week we would study a new set of wood samples. And then I had another class which was really similar to that, and where we studied the structures and properties, but the lab with that one was we actually got to work in a wood shop, and we got to learn about the different properties of like lumber while making something out of it. So we got to essentially make a little table with our bare hands and machines out of yellow poplar. I also just recently had another class in which we were learning about circular economies, which is basically, it kind of mimics how the natural world works, where everything is a product of something else and how everything can be used in something else. We were studying this like group of companies, I think somewhere in Europe, where they have all these different businesses, but the waste of one will become the primary product of another, and then the waste of that one goes to another one, and then the energy produced from like the steam place over here turns into electricity over here. I hope some of these are sounding like a little bit exciting to you guys, or like it makes you want to learn more, because when I found out I got to take these classes, I was so like, what? That's so cool, because you know, in high school you're so like split between your math, your science, your English, blah, 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 blah. But once you start like getting into your major, oh, it's so cool. There's so much to learn, and it's so exciting. I hope you guys like to stay excited about school and college and learning, because there's so much to learn. And then what you get to do with that is like the best, most rewarding part of this. Alright, well, it is starting to get a little bit dark here where I am, and this is my neighborhood out here in Blacksburg. So I'm gonna do a little cutscene, and I am going to teach you guys a little bit about what I've learned so far. Just a little quick basic lesson on trees, cells. Yeah. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that first part of the video. I want to share with you guys some of the things that I've learned so far, and maybe you already know it, maybe you don't, maybe you'll learn something new. I hope you do. I hope it excites you. I hope it gets you curious. So yeah. The first thing I want to talk about is the difference between hardwoods and softwoods. You hear about things like, your hardwood floors and your conifers and your Christmas trees, whatever you want to call these things. I want to go ahead and explain the major differences between your average hardwood and softwood trees. The differentiating factor between hardwoods and softwoods isn't the actual toughness or strength of the wood. It actually depends on the seed and if it is covered or not covered. To start off, we're going to talk about softwood trees. Softwood trees are known as gymnosperms because they have a naked seed, and the gymno comes from the Greek gymnos, which means naked. Softwoods are also known as evergreens. Those are going to be like your pines, your firs, your spruce, your cedars. Looking back biologically, we know that softwood trees developed first. How do we know that? Because they have a much simpler cell structure. And I'll show you guys what those look like in a little bit, but just take my word for it. The main shape that you're going to find for softwood trees is going to be one single long stem, a main dominant stem, and it's going to have these lateral subordinate branches that come off of it. I totally just changed that from stem to branches because I'm a goof. And then off of those branches you're going to have your needle-like foliage, or the most common shape you're going to see is going to look similar to this. Hardwood trees are known as angiosperms because their seed is covered and encased in a fruit. And so the angio part comes from the Greek angien, which means a vessel, and that vessel would be the fruit. Hardwood trees are also known as deciduous trees because they will lose their leaves come fall and winter and then grow them back in the spring. Hardwood trees also developed later than softwood trees through, evolution and mutations and things like that. All those changes that happened eventually meant that the hardwood tree would have a more complex cell structure. I'll get back to it in a little bit, but just know that hardwoods are a lot more complex than softwood trees. The main shape that you're going to find for hardwood trees is going to be a main stem that has all these branches that come off of it, and then those are going to branch off into even more branches. It's called a dendritic sort of structure. If you think about, if you know anything about neuroscience, like dendrites and your neurons in your brain, it has that same concept of where it just branches off. And so from that, you're going to have all your leaves that come up there, and those are going to be more of a broadleaf foliage rather than the needle ones that you have in softwood trees. So those are all the main differences of hardwood trees and softwood trees and all their main characteristics. So next time that you're out on a walk or a hike, you can look at a tree and know if it's like a softwood or a hardwood. And Luna came over, so I picked her up, and she is a little grumpy, but she gets to say hi, so. Alright, down you go. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and talk about the macroscopic and microscopic characteristics and features of trees. When working with wood, there are 3 different planes that we use as references when we're looking at it from a microscopic level. The 3 different planes are as follows. This top one right here with all the rings that you're used to seeing, that's called the cross section. And then if we went and if we cut the log from the radius right along that way, that's going to be our radial plane. And so in this little segment over here, that's going to be this part right there, if you can imagine that going down. If you went and cut it anywhere down the tangent of the circle, that would be your tangential plane. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about the cross section of the tree and tree rings. So the 2 different parts of a cross section are going to be your early wood or spring wood and your late wood. The early wood is going to be all these lighter parts in here, while the late wood is going to be the darker rings. Early wood is what is going to grow in the springtime, and so after a long season of hibernation, these cells are going to get really big, and they're going to grow really fast, so that way they can start moving up liquids and nutrients as fast and as much as possible, so that the tree can grow as much as possible. So the cells are going to be larger, and the walls are going to be thinner. The cell walls are going to be thinner. And because of the thinner walls, it's going to have less density than the late wood. Late wood is the part of the tree that's going to grow in the winter and fall because, the resources are a lot more limited, and so it can't grow as much. So that's why the darker parts are so much smaller and thinner than the lighter parts. Late wood cells are going to be smaller, and they're going to have thicker cell walls, which is going to make them a lot more dense than the early wood. And so when you put these two together, you have annual growth, and that's how you can go ahead and age a tree, whether it be you cut it down like this or you go into it and get a core sample. If you count the tree rings from the center, you can determine how old the tree is. And now to go into a bit more of a microscopic view, we have our softwoods and our hardwoods again. So I'm going to start with softwoods. This view right here is going to be a microscopic view of the cross section. And so I'm no fantastic artist, but I hope you can kind of visualize this. This part right here, these larger cells, is going to be your early wood. And then these parts right here, these really small, compact, dense parts, are going to be your late wood. And so you can see that the early wood is going to be a lot bigger, it's going to allow more to flow through, and these are going to be a lot smaller and kind of restricting how much can go through. And going back to what I said earlier about softwoods being a lot more simple than hardwoods, you can see how uniform it is. We have these really nice straight rows of cells, and you can have some features like resin canals, and resin canals you'll find in pine trees, like southern yellow pine. It's kind of what makes them sticky on the inside. Some of them have a lot, some of them have a little, and that's one of the determining factors if you're trying to identify a tree from the cross section. One of the main things you look for is resin canals, or the presence of them. And now coming over here to the hardwoods, we have two main different appearances of the cross section. We have ring porous and we have diffuse porous. So ring porous hardwoods are going to have a fairly similar structure or appearance of as softwoods, but they're rearranged very differently. This is a very generic photo. Every tree is super unique and super different. But for the majority of ring porous hardwoods, you're going to have the early wood vessels. They're called vessels. Early wood vessels, and then as winter and fall come along, they're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you're going to start again once the next spring hits. And then with diffuse porous, it's not as easy to tell. The vessels are going to be more of a uniform shape just all throughout the seasons, and so it's difficult to identify where the late wood starts and where the early wood starts. So one cool element found in hardwood trees is this thing called tyloses. And tyloses are this little, it's like a stuffing almost, and it fills up the vessels. And what's really cool about it is it blocks the flow of fluids and such. So in some trees, that's really useful for when it comes to their their actual use. So for example, white oak. White oak is really good for making barrels for wine or alcohol or beer, I don't know. It's good for barrels because it holds in liquid, and the reason why it holds in liquid instead of drenching the wood and getting it all wet and moist and then leaking is because of those tyloses that block it in. And so now I want to go ahead and show you guys a really cool sort of party trick that you can do with tyloses. It's such a cute little thing. Okay, so tyloses. White oak, red oak. Let's do this. You're going to start with a little bowl of water and then some soap. Any soap will probably do. And you're going to just put a little bit in there. And And mix it around a little bit, get it bubbly. And then the last thing you're going to need is going to be a sample of red oak and white oak. You know, if you just have like little dowels lying around somewhere. And looking at these, I think this one's red oak, this one is white oak. Okay, so you guys remember what I said about tyloses and how it's like it stuffs and blocks up the vessels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these, put them in a little bit of water, and then I'm going to blow through them. And I want you to think, you can pause the video if you want, I want you to think about the difference between what's going to happen with the red oak and the white oak, or the red oak and the white oak. Okay, so I hope you guys got to talk about it or think about it just for a second. But now we're going to try it out. So yeah, my prediction is that this is the red oak, this is the white oak. Let's see what happens. Oh, I guess I'll show you. Alright, and then oh, there's a little bit. There's like a tiny bit. Alright, so what do you guys think? So what happened here is this ended up being the red oak, and this was the white oak. And so what happened after I started to blow through the red oak is, because all the vessels are pretty open and clear, I could blow my air through and the soapy water would form bubbles. Versus the white oak, because of the presence of tyloses, did not get a lot of air through. We got a little bit, we got a tiny bit of bubbles going, but not nearly as much as the red oak. And so if you ever want to like prank your friends or something with this, just be like, oh yeah, look what I can do, and you do the red oak and you hand them the white oak one, and then just watch them have the same reaction I did where they're trying to blow and blow and blow, and then it just they're gonna pass out or something. Okay guys, that is all I have for you. I hope you maybe learned something out of this, or if you didn't learn anything, at least thought it was cool. I am so thankful to have had this opportunity to talk to you guys, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do. I followed the environmental program thing on Twitter, so I love like seeing what is going on, and I can't wait for the school year to start to see what you guys are doing and learning. Mr. Freeman, thank you for reaching out to me and asking me to do this. I am so happy that I had this opportunity, and to all you students out there and anybody else watching, just be curious, get excited about nature, get excited about learning, and just get out there. Do what you can to make the world a little bit better, you know? We are in desperate need of young people like you who want to make this change, and I am so excited to see what you guys do. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you have an amazing school year and time with this program. And I guess that's it for me, so bye guys!
Once again?
Yes, come here. Right.
So you can capture my reaction.
Yeah, well no.
Okay.
You do it.
No, I don't want to do
Do
that.
it. Do it, dunk it.
Vape God. Did I do it right?
Haha, pranked!
Okay. Alright.
It's red oak and white oak. Don't dunk it in there. It's those tyloses!
Okay. That's your okay.
I'm gonna add that to my video.
Can you end it now?
Yeah.